Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Goddess today. Goddess is a friend I met maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know the exact date at the Woodstock Fruit Festival in upstate New York. Um, and Woodstock is back for people who are interested. I'm not sure if there's any tickets left, but it's happening in January 2024. You can search for their website for that. And the UK Fruit Fest will be open very soon for registration. That will be 26th of July to the 2nd of August 2024. I would also like to let everyone know on Friday nights we have a Zoom call we call Fruity Fridays. Look out for that, or join our mailing list, or go to fruitfest.co.uk for more information. You're absolutely welcome to join us. Each Friday we have a different presenter joining us, talking about the raw vegan diet and so on. And we'll leave the promotions there for now. But Goddess,
Ronnie, how you doing?
I remember meeting you at the festival, and it was such a fun moment. And I just have a memory of a few people being around. It was kind of nighttime, and it was just fun that you were called Goddess for a start, and that was fascinating. And then it was just a really beautiful conversation. I remember it was a great moment.
It was you and the other two wise men. I called you my three wise men that night.
That's right. Yeah, because sometimes I hold back from saying things. I don't know if people remember, but it was myself, it was Jim, and it was Sebastian.
Right.
And so I remember that conversation very vividly, and it was very funny as well. So a beautiful moment. So I've always thought you're an interesting and special person, and wanted to learn more and hear more from you. And maybe you can start by letting us know what would you look how would you introduce yourself?
How would I introduce myself? Ta-da! Hi, I'm Goddess.
That's enough. Nothing more needed.
Nothing more needed.
So you're raw vegan.
Sure am.
But usually what I ask people is, I guess that you weren't brought up like that. Maybe you were, but I'm guessing you weren't. So how did it all start for you? What kind of diet or lifestyle were you growing up?
So I had the standard American diet, meat, cheese, and all that kind of stuff out of cans, stuff out of the freezer, all that processed, yummy stuff we Americans like. And one day I read a book called Anger by Thich Nhat Hanh. And that was the first time I was introduced to the story and the plight of chickens. And after I read that book, I could no longer look at an egg again. So no more eggs and no more chicken. And then slowly, and I was never a big meat eater, so that kind of went. And from there, I started, eating a little more vegetables. And I actually started juicing. That was really my entry into the world. I did a big 6-month juice fast, and I loved it. But we were juicing the same stuff. We were juicing carrots and beets and some celery. And what happened after 6 months is my hands turned orange. So we had to stop that, and we had to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into our diet. And, there's so much information out there, it's kind of hard to know. So I started a meetup here in my area for raw vegans, so that I could learn and I could share and they could share with me. And what happened is, a lot of my raw vegans loved it so much, they found the festival, the Woodstock Festival, and they went. Jamie Secuyo and her name escaped me. She lives in West Palm Beach, but so many of them, like, they took it further than I did, and they went to Woodstock, and then they were like, Goddess, you have to come. This is level. And it was like, no, I'm really happy here. But when you do raw vegan, you plateau, especially if you do raw vegan the way we're showed, with lots of nuts, because I was eating more nuts than I had ever eaten in my whole life. So after I lost a lot of weight, I plateaued, and then I started to gain weight. And I was like, what's going on? I'm eating raw vegan, I'm eating healthy, and my body was not having it. So I went to the Woodstock Festival and I loved it so much. All the variety of fruit. I had always loved fruit anyways. I had just never thought you could eat fruit all day long. And once I was introduced to that lifestyle and I saw how easy the poop came, because that's super important. Once you poop well, you never want to go back to any other way. I decided to keep up with the lifestyle, and I live in Florida, which makes it so easy because we have beautiful fruit all season long. I mean, not to mention the fruit that comes from everywhere else in the world, which I try, to stay very local and seasonal. But I have been eating fruit now for, I would say, 5 years. I would say 98% to 2% every once in a while. I might eat something, I would say maybe something cooked, or maybe something that's a little heavy. Like I don't eat any nuts anymore, no grains. It's completely fruit, and very little fat.
Wow, and no vegetables either now, or?
Some lettuces, if there's some really juicy lettuce in the neighborhood, cucumbers, tomatoes, avocados, those are all fruit. So yeah, pretty much all fruit.
So as it seems like you followed your own journey and you were following different sources, like Thich Nhat Hanh and looking into some of those things. What was it that was guiding you in the sense of what, like, as you were cutting things out of your diet, what information were you coming across to help you learn what to eat or how to eat? What, or was it an intuitive thing for you?
Okay, so a little bit of both. So when I first started with the anger with Thich Nhat Hanh and the chickens, I used to weigh 180 pounds. And as I got rid of my anger and took the chicken out of my life, and I lost weight. I should say food really has nothing to do with weight. It's your mental state. So as soon as I switched my mental state and the weight came off, I didn't have any desire for heavy things. I didn't have any desire for processed things. I love going to the supermarket and just going in the one, direction, the one place out at the end of the store. For us, in our supermarkets, our fruits and vegetables are usually in the back. So you go to the back, you get all you need, and then you go right back out. You don't have to do any of the other aisles. So what a save of time, It's just a beautiful process. And then I stopped drinking water. And I'm just eating fruit, which for Florida is kind of a shocker because people are like, you have to drink water. And it's like, no, that's not true. If you eat enough fruit, you get exactly what your body needs. And for me, really, the most important thing was the connection, the spiritual connection that I was feeling, and how when I eat heavy or when I eat too much, the connection is gone. Yeah, I shouldn't say gone. The connection is hidden. It's
Wow.
harder to access. But when I'm eating really like what makes my soul happy, when I'm eating fruit fuel, I have a really good download connection. I dream well. I'm very intuitive. Like, everything's like kind of spot on. And it's like, I like that. So when it doesn't happen, it's like, whoa, why do I want to be like this? I want to be like this. So yeah, it's been a very intuitive process, but also health. I had a lot of mental issues. I was agoraphobic. I used to get palpitations of the heart. I had this very stressful job, and I left all that behind. I really left that behind because I figured there had to be another way to live on this planet. Like, this is heaven on earth. Why would we hurt ourselves to live here, And so watching other people, and it's really funny, like when I go out to dinner with friends and people are eating, the first course and the second course, and I'm usually like eating my sorbet for dessert and maybe for like the second course as well. It's just funny to watch people and how they labor with their breathing, and how their faces get red and how they start to get tired. And it's like, you would never fill your car with fuel that doesn't work. Like, you would never put diesel in a car that doesn't take diesel, or you would never fill your tank more than it needs, right? Like, you ever hear people at dinner and they're like, oh, I'm so full, let me have dessert. It's like, what? Because if your car is full, you don't put any more fuel, right? But people, like, they don't even think about it consciously. They just add food and more food. And for me, it just became like my body was so not happy when I had too much food. Like, can I share?
Yeah.
The season right now is peas. So we have fresh papayas. We have fresh pomelos. we have persimmons.
Hmm.
And so it's really nice to eat with the season. And look, persimmons are so beautiful because you get that beautiful star.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic.
So fruit is fun, and it's like you get to have fun, you get to eat light, you get to eat what your body needs. It's like I eat fruit. Like I just came home. Right now we have finger limes in season 2. They're not a pea fruit, but finger limes are finger limes. We call it the caviar of fruit because they break out like little pieces of caviar and they like in your mouth. And we have Florida ones and California ones. And it's like, it's a meal in itself. You can just like put one in your purse and then take off. I just came from exercise class. So I was chomping on the way home on my little finger limes. And I don't have to worry about dishes. I don't have to worry about shopping. None of that. It's like, it's really, really easy. And in my neighborhood, because I live in Florida, we have lots of fruit. So we have star fruit, avocados. In May, we have the lychees, we have the longans, not year round, but it's like we have really good seasonal fruit that comes in. And of course, mangoes. I'm allergic to mangoes because I ate too many in my lifetime, but they smell so good. It's almost as if I'm eating them. It's like that experience.
Yeah, so when you were, that's brilliant, by the way. I love hearing about your story, but when you were growing up, did you have any health issues at all?
I don't want to say health issues. I had like, the normal colds, yeast infections, like the normal stuff that people get. But it's funny how we think that's normal and it's not. Because it's like once you start
Yeah.
taking care of your body, you learn none of that is normal. You're not supposed to catch the flu. It's not supposed to be a seasonal thing. It's like if your body is strong, if your body's maintaining, if your body has the right fuel, it will work always really well for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this consciousness about changing diet, it seems like it started off as more of an ethical approach then. It wasn't really a health thing or environment or whatever. It was ethical side. And were you always on a bit of a spiritual path?
So that was the reason I changed my name. I think that I hit the spiritual path just as I was hitting the ethical path, like trying to see how things were working out in life because I was a paralegal, I was a smoker, I was a little bit of a social drinker, and I was overweight and I was so unhappy, like deep down. And the minute those layers came off, it was like, whoa, I remembered how happy I was as a child. And it's like, that's our birthright to be joyful, to be blissful. And it's like, we've forgotten in our society, like we become such great foodies, which is okay to be a foodie. It's okay to have a beautiful habit, but it's like, when you watch these TV shows, it's like, let me see how much more bacon and butter we can add on top of all the food that we're making. It's like, for what? Eat the food the way it is. Like if you're going to have zucchini, eat the zucchini. It's so good for you. Cut it up, put a little lemon on it, some herbs. We live in a very complicated times in society. And so it's almost like going backwards and just kind of stripping the layers off until you find what works for you. And this doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I think it does, but it doesn't because people get to the same place at different times in their life, or they don't.
So when you, for example, started to change your diet, did you notice other benefits? I mean, you were doing it for ethical reasons, but did you start to notice other benefits along the way? And what do you think were the most significant shifts that you saw as you were changing your diet?
Okay, very good question. Thank you. So yeah, I started for ethical reasons, but I was already overweight and I had tried every diet under the sky and the sun. And what I realized is that when I was eating fruit, I want to say the word is happy. I was just happy. It's so easy to eat fruit. I mean, fruit has always been dessert for me. So it's like I was eating dessert all the time. Okay, that's one way to look at it. And that was really big. And going back into the raw vegan world, I really like the reason I started the meetup was because I loved introducing recipes and I loved introducing fruit. Like not many people know about dates. And dates are like a substitute for chocolate. So I used to love chocolate, but dates have the same chemicals that are in chocolate. So when you eat a date really slowly, really yummy, and you're kind of like sucking on it until you get like everything off the pit, you've had a chocolate experience. And so I would turn people on to that. I'd be like, you want chocolate? No, no, wait, try these honey dates from California. Or wait, the medjool dates from Israel are, and they're delicious. And then, you know, teaching people to put a nut in the date, and you've got a whole meal right there. You know, if you put like an almond or I can't remember the nuts because I don't eat nuts anymore, but it was like, so shifting. And I've always loved teaching and sharing. I love sharing. I think that when you know something, it's kind of our responsibility to share with others, because you don't know until you know. And then once you know, you can do different. So it's like, I didn't know for a long time. I didn't know the benefits of fruit. I didn't know the benefits of eating raw. I didn't know how much food you could put in, because I remember one day reading a book about potatoes, and it was like, sure, you can eat French fries or a baked potato fully loaded, but for the handful of French fries you can eat 3 baked potatoes with nothing on them. And it's like, what? I can eat 3? Try to eat 3 baked potatoes. It's almost impossible, but it's like there was such abundance of eating, like you could eat as much as you wanted. And fruit's the same way. Caveat to that, because I wanted to talk to you about being 50 and what happens when you are 50. And I'm 54 now. But what I noticed is, because when I first started the fruitarian diet, it was all about eat as much as you can. Like, you have to get the calories in. And I think that's okay if you're in your 30s and your 40s. I think when you're in your 50s, your metabolism changes and everything slows down inside a little bit. People tell me they ache more when they're 50, or you know, things are not as flexible as before. I find that I'm going backwards. I'm more flexible, but it's like my exercise. But fruit really helps with that, and less fruit. And perhaps it has to do with, like, I fasted. I did this grape juice fast once. I was having issues, you know, with old stuff that was coming up, old emotions. And also, I want to say old garbage that was still coating my insides. And somebody told me to do a grape juice diet. So it's a Concord grape juice with just a little bit of lemon, and just drink that for as many days as you can. And what comes out of your body is sludge. If I tell you, like, sludge came out for 10 days straight, just sludge. And it was not poop, it was just, ugh. And once it came out, I mean, I lost a lot of weight. I went down to 95 pounds. It was a little scary because I'd never been that skinny. But talk about realizing that you don't even need food. Like, you don't even need water. You don't even need food. Your body can survive on like very little for a long time. And once I had that in here, it was really easy to eat to what my body needed. Now, having said all that, I'm 5'2". So I'm a little smaller. I'm a woman, and my metabolism is extremely different. But if I ate one of these, this would get me by for a good 3 to 4 hours, unless like I had a marathon. And then maybe I would need to eat half of one of these to fill myself up. The nice thing with fruit is I can eat whenever I want, because this fits into my purse. This fits into my purse, you know, and it's not messy and it's fun. It's like you can just eat when your body says you want to eat. There's no such thing anymore as breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I think that was another milestone in the journey, that you didn't have to eat when people said you had to eat. Like, lunchtime is not lunchtime. That's usually when I break my fast for the first time in the day, because I usually get up, I go to the beach, I work out. By the time I come home, it's like 11:30. It's like, oh, now I'm ready to have something. I'm also very blessed because I live in Florida and I have a cocoa ferry. So I have a gentleman who delivers fresh coconuts to my door every week. Fabulous. If you've never had fresh cocoa water, it doesn't taste coconutty at all. It tastes like water, but it tastes even better than water because it's like water with a little bit of juicy taste. And every coconut is completely different. So I usually drink like 5 to 6 coconuts a day. And it's just part of my lifestyle here. Like, I go to the beach, I come home, I drink a coconut, I take a nap, I get up, I crack open a coconut. So it's like really amazing how much water can sustain you and how much water is in fruit. You know, so it's like when you're full, you're full. You don't actually need to eat more fiber or carbohydrates because your body's like, oh, I've had just about enough. And that was something that I had to learn like recently, because, you know, at the fruit festivals, you would fill yourselves up until you couldn't eat anymore. You're like, oh my God, so much fruit. I remember my first fruit festival, I brought my mother. I don't know if you remember, Ronnie, but she was so nervous about not having enough fruit that she would take a little plate to her room. And I'm like, Mom, the kitchen is open. Like, even if the kitchen isn't open, the other part of the kitchen is open and they leave fruit out. But our mentality sometimes is not of abundance. And so she was nervous. She'd always bring a little, you know, plate of fruit, which she would never finish because it'd be the next meal time, you know? So, and that's the whole thing. Even at the fruit festival, there were meal times, whereas my body is like now has learned to just, I eat when I'm hungry. And if I'm not hungry, there will be something when I'm hungry somewhere.
Very cool. So why did you actually go raw vegan? What was the inspiration to do that?
So raw vegan was just kind of like the next evolution. You know, when you go from vegetarian to vegan, at a certain point, you just stop cooking because like oils, none of that agrees with me anymore. Like even avocado, I can eat half an avocado and that's it. I can't eat the whole avocado because then I feel like too full, like too much fat in my body. And there's another fruit that I love. I don't know if you're familiar with the aki fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So the aki fruit is really fattening. I can only have one. So I picked the best of the bunch and I sit with it and I honor it. And I take out one tendril at a time because after that one, I'm so full. It hits you so fast, the fat. It's like, okay, that's all I can handle. But again, this is part of, I think, the lifestyle that I've chosen because it's like I eliminated so many things that my body just doesn't want them back. I don't say that that's for everybody, but it definitely has been working for me. And it's been working for my friends who are over 50. It's like really not any more meals. It's really fuel. It's like when we need fuel, we reach for the best, highest quality fuel we can find. So going back to raw vegan, like I said, it was just nice to learn a different way, you know, like to play with food, to play with fruits and vegetables without having to cook them, so that everything was live inside. And not only that, when you get rid of a lot of stuff in your body stops making digestive enzymes like it did before. Because fruit doesn't need digestive enzymes from inside. Fruit has the digestive enzymes. So the food we eat in our society requires our own digestive enzymes to process. When you stop eating food that doesn't require it, your body stops producing and says, oh, you don't need this. Okay, I'm going to work on other stuff your body needs, like maybe a little more dopamine or maybe a little more endorphin, or maybe some synovial fluid, right, for the third eye. But that became hard because anytime I would eat something that I couldn't, I would find myself hurting. And I didn't like I said, when you find the way, you follow the way, you know, like once you know, and it's like, and you can, you know, veer the path, but I'm the kind of person that once I know, I want to stick to that way because it's like, oh, it's so easy. Everything is easy. And then I can have more fun. So for me, pooping had always, I don't want to say an issue, but it always been a little difficult. And then when you poop like all the time, easy peasy, like you eat something, an hour later, you're pooping, it's out. Good. Thank you. You don't want to go back to any other way.
And did you have any particular influences going raw? Was there any friends who were doing that at the time? Was there any books or anything you came across?
Oh my God, the fruit festival was just beginning to take off. People like Christy, you know, like there were so many, YouTube was just beginning to take off. That's why I started the meetup, because I wanted to find other people who had same or similar interests. And so having this raw vegan meetup where we would show up, we would do a potluck every month. We would videotape the recipe so people knew what was in it and how to make it. And we developed a huge following. Like one of our last meetups, we had like 75 people show up and so much food because everybody would bring a plate. 75 is huge. And we would always go to like really interesting places. Like I would find local farms to go to, or churches or yoga studios, you know, anybody who is spiritually bent or open to this kind of lifestyle. it was a place that was interesting to go and find speakers and talk. It was always about educating, because this way I educated myself and I could educate others at the same time.
It's so interesting because I started my meetup group after I came back from the festival, and I was not an expert at all. So I was similar situation. I was looking to meet other people that knew more than me that would come along and show me some things. And I never quite met those people. I always it was always like people that were just beginners as well that were coming along. So it was but I never had that success. You had 75 people showing up to a meetup. That's incredible.
And like I said, 5 of my people ended up at the fruit festival and then told me about it and said, you gotta go.
Ah,
So it was like, okay, let's
yeah,
try.
I know Jamie. Yeah. Did people like Don Bennett go to your meetup, or I'm trying to think of some of the other people that were in Florida.
Yeah, Dawn Bennett, and there was that beautiful lady who lives in, I don't know why her name, she has a magazine. Tomer used to live with her for a little bit.
You said she lives in West Palm Beach.
Yeah, right around West Palm Beach. Oh my God. And then, you know, the girls you came to visit, one lives in San Diego now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, names I always forget.
Yeah, I do. Eva loves golf.
Eva,
So
God is bless Eva. So it's like all these people were local, were around. We had met through the meetups, and then they all went to the festival. And it was like, whoa, I need to go
that's
check it out.
fantastic. That's fantastic. What a great. I mean, what was your? How did you have success with that meetup? What were you doing to make it so popular?
So people, like I said, really like to learn. And we would have our meetups on Saturdays or Sundays, usually in the afternoon, and usually in a location that was interesting. So not just at someone's house. You know, we would find a church, like a really open church, or we would find, we had a doctor's clinic once that had a big, huge meeting room, and we met there. She was an alternative doctor. We met at a couple of farms, people who had, you know, product, or they had vegetables or fruits to sell, or just wanted us to see their land and see what they were doing. And that made it interesting for people to show up. And then I think also the potluck itself, you know, people were open to come with nothing or to come with, you know, something. We also printed a list of like places where they could find recipes if they wanted to get adventurous and try something for the meetup. And then I think people just loved coming and trying new things. And then I would send them the video. So I really engaged with my group to really get them out there, because it's like, if you don't know, you don't know. In the beginning, I didn't know. You know, when people would tell me vegetarian, I thought vegetarian was, you know, cheese, lots of cheese. Like when people start changing, they make bad choices when they change because they don't know. I remember the first time I ever tried the fruit called rambutan. Have you ever had a rambutan?
Yeah, yeah.
I was in Hawaii, and it's an ugly fruit, right? It's kind of hairy and wiry and red. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to try that because I don't even know what it is. And I remember this gentleman saying, let me crack this open and show you what it is. And he cracked it open, and there was this delicious lobe, right? It's like a translucent lobe, and it has a pin, and you put it in your mouth, and it's like so yummy. And it's like, but for that experience, I would have never tried a rambutan. And usually when you go into the grocery store, everything's packaged. So you don't want to buy a package because you don't know if you're going to like it. But when we go to a meetup, we would bring packages of different fruits so people could try and say, oh, I know what that is now. Oh, I had a persimmon with goddess, and she showed me how to make beautiful, you know, like designs and stuff. And that's like a game changer for people, because if you can try something once and you like it and there's no judgment to it, chances are you're going to do it again.
Wow.
So it's like, it's such a small thing, but it's huge, right? Because then you're not afraid. Then you're like, oh, I'm going to go try something new in the vegetable store this week, or oh, I'm going to try a new fruit this week, even if I don't know what it is. And then we're very blessed because we have Asian markets. We have Spanish markets here in Florida. So we get a huge influence from other countries. And
Yeah.
they have their different fruits and vegetables too, you know, like I eat stuff and I think it's like normal, but it's not. Like pomelo is a Chinese fruit. It grows here because we have a huge community of Chinese that they took over some of the citrus. And if you've never had a pomelo, you're like, what is this ugly grapefruit? But this ugly grapefruit has the sweetest kernel of fruit ever. Like it's like eating an orange, but it's a little grapefruit tasting, and the kernels are huge. I love peeling one open and showing the kernels because it's like, wow, where else are you going to get this experience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Goddess, you were started off kind of doing a more of a high fat raw diet, it sounds like. And that was, from what I'm gathering, you weren't really influenced by anything apart from the people you met maybe at your meetup or some of those things. Um, and was it through the Woodstock Festival? Was it that experience that made you transition to more of the fruit diet?
Absolutely. Like I said, I hit a plateau where all of a sudden it's like I went from 180 to 120 pounds. And I kind of like, I never budged from there. It was always like 115, 110 to 120. And one day I realized that every time we had a meetup, you know, and we would make gourmet raw food, gourmet burgers or the wraps, or everybody would make cakes, right? Every single one of those cake bases is nuts. And usually the dressing, the sauce for the cake, right? The filling is more nuts. So now you're eating like more nuts than you've ever had before in your whole life. And here's something I didn't know. Nuts are not part of a human's diet. We don't have the right teeth for them. So if you look at a squirrel's teeth, they will actually, and they drill around the nut, and that's how they eat it. So we're eating something that we shouldn't even be eating. I mean, that's why you're supposed to, you know, take your nuts and wash them so you get all that stuff off of them, right? To germinate them so they're more digestible. But really, it's not part of a human's diet. And so for me, the elimination of things that don't work for my body led me to fruit, because fruit
Right.
is like nature's pharmacy. You pick it off a tree, you pluck it off, you know, the ground. And that is so easy. Like for me, really, especially later in life now, things have to be very little drama and very easy. Because it's like, that's the way I like my life to be, you know? And so if it's easy, it's fun. And if it's not easy, if it's hard, you kind of have to question yourself and say, am I really going in the right path? Shouldn't it be a little bit easier along the way?
Very cool. What do you think the benefit is of, say, the meetup groups and going to the festival and stuff like that?
Community. Lexi taught me that one. My little sister Lexi, she's like, it's all about community. Because one year I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go all the way to New York. We have the best fruit in Florida. Why should I go all the way to New York to eat my fruit? And she was like, you're not going for the fruit, you're going for the community. And really, in the meetup, we were meeting amazing community, but like you said, I was not meeting people who knew more than me, although that's not completely true. Some people did know more than me, but I was really meeting newbies and people who just wanted to learn. Going to the fruit festival is like going into a huge community of people who know and who have had different experience, mothers with babies, older men, parents, like they've had a more varied experience of this raw fruitarian journey than I have. So it's, for me, the festival was really about education, community, and also fun. Oh my God, jumping in the lake, you know, being in the mountains. We don't have mountains here, so that's kind of wonderful.
Excellent, excellent. And what would be some of your other practices that are important for you in terms of having a healthy lifestyle outside of diet?
Right. So I don't know if you can see behind me, but I have a yoga trapeze. And in fact, that's the class I came from. So I do yoga trapeze about 5 times a week. I love it. There's something about being upside down and letting all the blood rush to your head. It's like that inversion chair, but without all the contraptions. There's also something about being strong. Like yoga is so beneficial anyways, but especially at 50, there are some poses that are still very hard for me. And then my knees sometimes hurt. So it's hard to get on the ground. And the yoga trapeze is like a tool. It's like a sling, a hammock, and then you've got your straps. And I find that so much easier to get into postures and poses that I need. And then the really big thing in my life is vitamin C. So I get up every morning. I live about 15 to 20 minutes from the ocean. And every morning I get up and I go do dawn to sunrise at the ocean, and then I swim. I find that this one little practice changed my whole life completely. First of all, it brings me peace. As I was telling you, my dog died last week, and I was so full of emotion and grief, and the ocean reminded me that she can hold all of my emotions, and she can just sit there and be with me until I can be with me. And it's a practice I've been doing now for about, I'd say, 7 years, going to the ocean every day. When I'm in town, I'm always at the ocean, and just swimming. Some days she's calm and some days she's vicious, and you just get in, and it's really amazing. The minute the salt hits your body, it's like all the stress, all the tension releases out of your body. So it's like you have a brand new slate for the whole day.
Fantastic.
And because the weather is so nice, like through the winter and still now, because we're still having beautiful weather in October, I double dip. So I go in the afternoons too.
What would be some of your tips for beginners to this lifestyle?
Tips for beginners: try everything. If it appeals to you, if it calls to you, if you like the color, if you want to know about the texture, try it. And if you think you might have too much, because this was my problem. Oh, I'm going to buy it, but what if I'm going to do with it if I don't eat it all? Invite a friend. Invite neighbors. The first time we bought a jackfruit, we bought a 30-pound jackfruit. And I was like, what am I going to do with 30 pounds of jackfruit? I mean, jackfruit is good, but I can't eat that much. And I remember calling all my neighbors saying, I'm sorry it's last minute, but my jackfruit is ripe and I'm opening it up tonight. And we put a table out on the lawn and a whole bunch of chairs and some lights. And we had 10 neighbors show up to try jackfruit.
Wow.
And the beautiful thing is some of them had jackfruit trees right around them and they didn't know. So now they know what a jackfruit is. And now they know how yummy it tastes. And then, of course, when you tell them, listen, you don't have to eat it just as fruit. It's the most amazing meat substitute ever, because jackfruit here in Florida is used for all sorts of meat substitutes. Which is, really nice if you're vegan or raw vegan, just having different ways to use fruit. So again, it's like, it's really just try things. And if you're afraid that it's too much or you're going to throw it away or it's going to go to waste, invite people to try it with you. Have a taste testing. One of my favorite professors said, everything in life is research. So instead of thinking of things as bad or good or wrong or right, it's research. You try it, you like it, you continue. You don't like it, you try something different.
Sure. So do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience? Anything is there any place people can follow you? I'm not sure if you put out information about this diet or if you still have your meetup, or is there anything you'd like to share?
Right. So I'm on Instagram, Goddess Diana. I'm on Facebook, Goddess Diana, and I kind of share a lot because I have so many different interesting things that I do. I really love laughter yoga. That's another strong discipline that's gotten me through the years, helping people laugh. But most importantly, it's just that when you're 50 plus, everything shifts in your body. Everything either slows down or gets a little faster. All the chemicals shift. It's not a myth. And I don't want to say 50, add 50, like, oh my God, the world. It can happen at 54. It can happen at 48. But there is a time in your life, it's like a season, like the winter and the summer. There's a time that you go into your winter, let's say, or summer. And when things shift, you have to listen. Because if you don't listen, what worked before, like being a raw vegan for 8 years was great. And then in my 9th year, it didn't work anymore. It was like, this isn't working the way it used to. It's like, I have to shift. And so shifting is really easy if you're paying attention to your body. And if you're paying attention, if you have a clear channel, if you're eating fruit, then it's really easy to hear what your body has to say. But if you're not, if you're doing things that your body really can't handle, if you're eating because this is what we do, or if you're eating because it's like, you know, this is the way to deal with emotions, then you're disconnected and it's going to get worse. So I really recommend that people take a moment to breathe and listen and feel. And fruit is so colorful and fun. You know, find the colors that you love. I love oranges, so anything orange works for me.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Goddess. It's been really fun talking to you and a lot of good advice and interesting stories there. Hopefully I'll see you again.
Yeah, you coming in January?
I'm coming, yes. I'll be there.
Yay!
So well, see you there. And um yeah, any final words you want to share before we finish?
I'm very grateful for the privilege and the honor to finally connect with you and to be on your channel. And yes, just eat fruit and be happy. Be a juicy melon.
So thank you everyone for joining us on the Love Fruit podcast, and you can follow Goddess Diana on Instagram. The UK Fruit Fest once again happens from the 26th of July to the 2nd of August. You can go to fruitfest.co.uk for more information on UK Fruit Fest. We also have our Fruity Fridays every Friday night. It's a live Zoom, 7 p.m. UK time, which usually makes it either 2 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. PST, but sometimes of the year, occasionally it's 3 p.m. and 12. And in Europe, it's 8 p.m. often. And other parts of the world, it's different, of course. But if you can check for 7 p.m. UK time and see where that is in your time zone. That's free to join. All of our presentations from the festival and all of our Fruity Fridays presentations have been added onto the Love Fruit archive. That's on fruitfest.co.uk. It's a monthly archive you can pay for on a monthly basis if you want to join it, £19 a month. But if you just want to try it out, there's a 30-day free option. So you can try it just for 30 days. You can try it for 30 days and then it'll continue on after that if you want it to. I also am starting to do classes on a Sunday and have my own group, the Love Fruit membership group. If you want to join that, then you can send a message to info@fruitfest.co.uk for more information. But thank you for joining me on the Love Fruit podcast, and we'll see you in another episode.